Good evening, dear friends. One more universal truth that we are going to discuss today, looking first in our Spiritist doctrine and then analyzing and taking a quick journey in all authors and philosophers and poets and doctrines and religions that talk about the same thing with different approaches, with different perspectives. But when the truth is the truth, with big T, capital T, then we are all saying the same thing. And it's about time for us to see what unites us and not what divides us. Tonight we are going to talk about tolerance. And for that, I brought first a little text from the book Happy Life from Divaldo Pereira Franco by Joana de Angelis, The Spirit. And it says like this: tolerate your neighbor's failings and do not place them in the gossip mill. We all make mistakes. Wise is the man who learns to act decently from his mistakes. When someone is down, give him your hand. Do not criticize him. Nobody falls because he wants to. If he does, the culprit is ignorance, a cruel enemy of man. Even so, the one who has fallen deserves help, not a reprimand. But we are so fast to judge, aren't we? Or it's just me? So, where in our doctrine we talk about non-judgment, tolerance, ignorance? Well, basically, it's one of the main factors, the main pillars of our definition of charity. And charity is very fundamental, as we've seen before in our doctrine, because charity is the key to salvation, to illumination, to enlightenment, to freedom. And it will help a lot if we go to the Spirit's book and see the definition of charity as Jesus meant. So, the question 886 of the Spirit's book, Kardec, so smart, he asks the spirits, what is the true meaning of the word charity as employed by Jesus? So what does charity mean? Does it mean just a material help, helping others materially speaking? What does charity mean? And the spirits give a very profound answer. And these three hints on how to become a loving person. So charity is love in action. And love in action means the answer of the spirits: benevolence for everyone. So doing good for others and for yourself. Indulgence for the imperfection of others. Here is our topic of today: tolerance, indulgence, non-judgment. Indulgence for the imperfection of others. And the third factor, forgiveness of injuries. Today, then, we are going to focus and concentrate in this indulgence, tolerance, non-judgment. How can we reach that? It's hard, isn't it? I don't know about you guys. I work on it every single day. This, for me, is the hardest because I tend to be very opinionated. And there is a very fine line where you can express your opinion or take positions in life and being judgmental and being non-indulgent and being non-tolerant. And that's a fine line, and that's hard. I struggle with that personally. I don't know about you guys, but personally, it's very hard for me. So, where can we go to know a little bit more about tolerance, indulgence, non-judgment. What about going to the gospel according to Spiritism, right? Since it's the definition of Jesus for charity and for love in action, what about the gospel according to Spiritism? Huh? Let's see. What does the gospel tell us? Indulgence will never occupy itself with the evil actions of others unless it is to offer help. So, avoiding a moral judgment on others. That's basically what tolerance is. I see, I sometimes am part of the experience, and I am looking at the other person acting, and immediately I form a judgment, right? And what does the gospel tell us to do? Will never occupy itself with the evil actions of others. So we should not focus on or concentrate on passing a judgment, a moral observation, a moral judgment, because first of all, it will always come from our own experience, our judgment, how we see a situation, how we observe, and how we form an opinion about something that we are observing can only come from our own experience. But there's so many diverse experiences, and we cannot judge them all. So it's better that we observe. Obviously, our egos are going to form a judgment on it, but we need to refrain ourselves to be the judge of the world, to be God, right? He's the one who's going to judge. And since his laws are in our conscience, as it's explained in the doctrine, right? It resides in our conscience, God's laws. We are going to judge ourselves. We are constantly doing that. That's why we are never okay when we act um, badly, right? So let's see what else the gospel tells us. When you criticize, what consequence should be deduced from your words? That the one who censures be not guilty of that which is being reproved, so that they may be worth more than the culprit. Humanity, when will you judge first your own hearts, thoughts, and actions without occupying yourselves with what your brothers and sisters are doing? Ouch! When will you have stern eyes only for yourselves? So easy for us to focus outside of ourselves. So we judge everybody and every situation, and the time we spend passing judgment, passing moral judgment on others and um, uh, others' experiences, we are not reflecting and analyzing what those concepts reflect of us, of ourselves, within us. And that's where our focus should be. We should be analyzing much more what we do, what our thoughts and our emotions, how we are doing, how we are going around, how things sit with us instead of passing judgment on others. Makes sense? I think it makes perfect sense because it's even a waste of time to try to judge others and try to save others. It's not our job to save anybody. It's our job to save ourselves. So it's our job to do the inner work, to self acknowledge our own shortcomings. And spirituality is this path of looking within, not outside, right? So then, be severe with yourselves, but indulgent to others. So be tolerant, be non judgmental towards others. Spirituality demands self-knowledge, and we can only find that within us. So experiences that we go through have are tools to help us find what we need to learn about that subject. Where are we? How are our thoughts? What are our emotions about these circumstances? Not about, oh, ha ha ha, the other one, what he did not, how he thinks, how he feels, how she feels. Doesn't matter, right? But that's what our doctrine says. That's what Jesus said in the gospel. And now I'm curious to know what other authors, spiritual authors, what other doctrines talk about non-judgment, about tolerance, about indulgence, about acceptance, right? And I brought to you today a book from Gary Zukav, one of my favorite authors. And that's a passage from The Seat of the Soul. And talking about non-judgment, Gary Zukav gives a very easy example. He says, if your car is hit by another car, for example, and the driver of the other car is drunk, it's appropriate that the other driver be held responsible, right? Yeah. Through the courts for the repair of our car, that he repairs the damage that he caused, it's appropriate that he or she be prohibited from driving if he can't drive. If he drives under the influence, that's not good for society. That's not good for anybody. So it's more than appropriate that he receives a suspension of his license, let's put it that way. It's not appropriate, however, that we allow our actions to be motivated by feelings of indignation, righteousness, or victimization. These feelings are the result of judgments that we make about ourselves and the other person. And obviously we are right and the other person is wrong, even when she is indeed wrong in that example. That doesn't mean that I will pass moral judgment on that. It's more important that I go through my own experience and reflect and meditate and pray on what that circumstance meant for me. Assessment through which we see ourselves as superior to another being, right? Yeah, because I'm right and you're wrong. So later on, he talks about if we are to engage the viewpoint of the soul. So what is the perspective of the soul? How would an enlightened being, instead of going crazy judging others, would act in that situation? If we are to engage the viewpoint of the soul, we must cease from judging, even those events that appear to be unfathomable, such as the cruelty of an inquisition, for instance, or a Holocaust, the death of an infant, the prolonged agony of a death by cancer, or a life confined to a bed. We do not know what is being healed in these sufferings. How profound is that? So when something really bad happens to us, we must understand that that pain and that suffering is bringing some kind of teaching, some kind of healing for our soul. Then the suffering becomes worthy, right? Because there is nothing more profound than going through difficult and painful situations, but understanding that your soul is expanding, that your consciousness level is enlarging, that your capacity to love is bringing about within you, and this is making your soul evolve. That's the only thing that's worth the suffering that we go through in this incarnated life, isn't it? What do you think? So this is very good what he says. We do not know what is being healed in these sufferings. That's why we can't pass judgment. We don't know the history of that other soul, right? We don't know what they have gone through. We don't know what's going on in their lives. So when we pass judgment just from watching a circumstance, most likely we are going to be making a moral conclusion that's not probably right, or at least not deep enough. So we do not know what's being healed in these sufferings or the details of the energetic circumstance that is coming into balance. What is it that's being healed in that situation? It's appropriate that we allow ourselves to feel the compassion that such circumstances call forth in us and to act upon it. But if we allow ourselves to judge these events and those who participate in them, we create negative karma that must be balanced. And we ourselves, we will be among those souls that choose to participate in circumstances that are necessary to that balancing. He talks about Gandhi a little bit in his life, and Gandhi and Christ, how they act and how they um, uh, came into this life, into this journey, and were able to know non-judgment, even when they were fighting for big causes, right? Even in the face of injustice. So he gives the example of Gandhi. Gandhi was beaten several times during his life. And although on two occasions he nearly died, um, he refused to prosecute his attackers because he saw that they were doing what they thought was right. This position of non judgmental acceptance was central in Gandhi's life. Same thing with Jesus Christ, right? Even in the face of humiliation, even in the face of crucifixion, right? The crucifixion, even in the face of crucifixion, he was able to have compassion for those that were crucifying him. They knew non judgmental justice. Wow. At some incarnation, I'll get that. What is non judgmental justice? And he says non judgmental justice is a perception that allows you to see everything in life but does not engage your negative emotions. This is precious. Non judgmental justice relieves you of the self appointed job of judge and jury because you know that everything is being seen, nothing escapes the law of karma. And this brings forth understanding and compassion. There is a hint here that maybe makes it easier for us in our daily lives to exercise this non judgmental posture towards life. When he says, um, it's a perception that allows you to see everything in life. It's not that you are going to be, in la la land and no, nothing is happening, nothing is going on. That's not what we are talking about, right? But when you see, when you analyze, when you have your perspective, when you own your opinions and your, let's call it, judgments, but you do not engage in the negative side of it. You do not engage in the negative, in the victimization, in the righteousness. I'm so right, you are so wrong. Especially now in this moment when we are so divided, right? Everybody's in either left or right in their corners, and everybody's right because we are not wrong ever, right? And we come with this negative energy of feeling superior, of knowing it all. And that's what the non-judgment exercise, that's where we can start. If we can analyze things and try to control our need to show off or to tell off and to put other people down, to feel superior in your own opinions and positions, then it's a start, right? I am starting by that because I have to work a lot on this. But anyway, um, without responding negatively, that's already a first step. And I wanted to bring to you also, this goes so fast that I'm going to go a little faster here. And I want to bring to you what A Course in Miracles says about judgment, because it's very, it's the words from the Course in Miracles are a little heavy in the Christian wording, but we'll get there. When the Bible says, "Judge not that ye be not judged," it means that if you judge the reality of others, you will be unable to avoid judging your own, right? So when I pass judgment on others and I'm very rigid in my set of moral values, it's impossible that I don't judge myself the same way, right? Again, the Spiritist doctrine teaches us that the laws of God are already in our own conscience. They are there. So we know when we transgress the laws. We know, right? That's why we have trouble sleeping. So because we feel that and we know that, it's impossible to judge others and not realize when we do ourselves the mistakes, the transgressions, and so on. And then it keeps going. Judgment is the process on which perception, but not knowledge, rests. That's beautiful. So when I am being judgmental, what is there is my ego, right? Passing on judgment. It's not knowledge. Where there is knowledge, there is no judgment. Judgment always involves rejection. You're wrong, I'm right. You did this, and this, and I am the victim, and so on. Judgment always involves rejection. It never emphasizes only the positive aspects of what is judged. It's true, isn't it? We always highlight what is negative, what is sinful, what's ugly. We don't emphasize the other side, correct? Whether in you or in others, we do that to ourselves as well. In the presence of knowledge, all judgment is automatically suspended, and this is the process that enables recognition to replace perception. So, what it's trying to tell us is to go one step further than the simple perception of one experience, right? And by self analyzing the experience we are going through, what we are watching, what we are seeing, and what we are doing, and how we are thinking, and where our emotions are, when we do this process of looking within, we are reaching knowledge. We are not reaching only the perception of the ego. And lastly, I want to bring Deepak Chopra with The Third Jesus, this book by Deepak Chopra. There is a page where he says, "Judge not." And he brings the verse of Matthew 7, chapter 7, verses 1 and 2. And it says, like we know, "Do not judge so that you not be judged. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged. And the measure you give will be the measure you get." We know that. We should know better by now, but still, Deepak Chopra follows saying, when Jesus tells his followers that they should show mercy to everyone, tolerance, indulgence, acceptance, non-judgment. When Jesus tells his followers that they should show mercy to everyone and not judge them, he cites two principal reasons. The first is that everyone has done wrong at one time or another and could be judged in kind. So, why am I judging others if I am also a fallible being? If I make mistakes too, if I err as well? As expressed by John chapter 8, verse 7, when a crowd is about to stone an adulterous woman, let anyone among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. The second reason is karmic, as is stated above. The way you judge others will be visited on your own actions. If you are harsh towards others, your wrongs will be judged harshly. Ouch. But if you are merciful toward others, your wrongs will be treated mercifully. Clearly, Jesus believed that every action had consequences that often were not immediately apparent, which is the key to karma. For us, the law of cause and effect, right in our language. If we experience the immediate result of our actions, there would be no need of a divine judge to settle accounts later on. We do his job, right? When will we be judged? How heavy is each wrong weighing the slight ones with the serious ones? Can a bad action be erased by another good one? Jesus cuts through all these complicated issues by saying, without equivocation, don't judge. Simple, clear, cut. The ego cannot help but judge. So, by implication, Jesus is pointing toward a level of awareness that is acceptable only at the level of the soul. So it's very hard for the ego to be able to not judge. So what Jesus Christ is telling us in the vision of Deepak Chopra is he's inviting us to bring our awareness higher, to a higher level, to the level of our souls, right? And then he keeps going as we move toward higher consciousness, our need to rigidly judge right and wrong begins to soften. We become more flexible. We become less strong, less good and bad, evil and good. We no longer have to blame. We stop thinking in terms of sin and punishment. This is all consistent with his emphasis on love and forgiveness. So, as we like to emphasize, we are all trying to say the same truths. And whatever your door is to bring you awareness of in this journey of spirituality, good for you, you know? So let's keep our path. Let's try to enhance our minds with concepts and ideas that makes us a better person, right? That makes us better people. And there is nothing better than going with our master's words. For us to end, I'll leave you with a passage from Matthew 7, verse 3 through 5. Why do you look at the speck of dust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the beam in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a beam in your own eye. You, hypocrites, first take the beam out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. And that's it for today. Let's work and meditate and pray during this week to work on this little thing. Very easy, very easy lesson for 500 incarnations. We'll get there. But we keep trying and we start now because the now has the creative power to change ourselves. Have a great week. See you next week. Bye bye.